that brings me to one of the questions I've got on my list, actually. What is the main, what would you say the main mistake is that candidates make when it comes to interviewing?
Complacency, under preparation,
Mm-hmm.
mindset. So that means to say, and I can use an example actually. Recently, I contacted a chap who had applied for a job through myself for one of my clients, and when he was great on paper, CV fantastic, and when I rang him and said, "Oh, we'd like to invite you to interview," he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, what company is this for? Because I've applied for so many jobs that I just, and for me personally, like that's not the first time I've heard that."
Mm-hmm.
And it is this like complacency of like, and like I say, it's a job seekers market, and that just says it all. I've applied for that. So I'd say that attitude, that mindset is one of the biggest things I see. And that's the initial stage. That's the first thing I see. And
Right.
am I going to put that person in front of my client? Probably not.
Yeah.
So from the off, you need to be on it from the off, like no complacency, no poor mindset, just dedicated, focused, knowing what you're aiming for, because that's what companies want. Companies don't want somebody who's applied for 20, 30 jobs,
Yes. Yeah. So there's something around targeted towards the particular job role and organization or company that you want to work for. Doing your research and knowing that when you get into that company or that job, you not only have done your research, know about it, but you also feel like it's going to be the right place for you and you're going to want to stay there long term, not just for the salary, but also it's because it's the work you want to be doing and the people you want to be working with, and you agree with the company mission. The the pushback on that I would give, and I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking is, there is a balance to be struck between targeted and putting all the effort into one, putting all your hopes into one basket, and then going for as many as possible. Yeah. So there is obviously that example you gave, that's on the end of going for too many and not being targeted enough. Where do you strike the balance between that? That's probably the tricky question.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if someone's applied for 30 jobs, 40 jobs, it's sort of irrelevant if every single one of those applications is targeted. So, and obviously that will come with whether it's entry level or whether it's, like a director role. There's not as many, let's say, director positions as there are entry level positions.
Sure.
So if I'm looking at somebody who's applying for something on a higher salary in like a C-suite position,
mm-hmm.
and then they're not too sure, bearing in mind the C-suite position, we're looking at 2 hours to do one application. If I'm having that, then I'm thinking, well, you've obviously not spent the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of like gauge it based on what type of role it is. If I'm looking at more, let's say, like blue collar positions, I'm like, fair enough. Like, let's look at what they're going into, what their history is. And so I kind of like cut a bit of slack. So I'd say that's where the balance is. And it's just weighing up, like, have you put the effort into this equal to the return you will see if you get the outcome that you're aiming for?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Obviously, the more senior the position is, the more is expected of the candidate, exactly. Not only in terms of their ability, but also in terms of how much they want the job and have researched the company and stuff. So, but if you're junior and you're starting out and you're just trying to get your foot in the door on a company, a little bit of targeting is going to set you apart probably from a lot of other people, but you don't need to go to the same lengths as if you were applying for a director role. That makes a lot of sense.
And if you're unsure, you can just check. Sorry to interrupt you. If you're unsure, if somebody rings me, if I ring somebody and I say, "Oh, I'm Laura, I'm calling from blah, blah, blah," and you're not sure who I am, this goes for anybody who, if a recruiter rings them, just clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, "Oh, can you just confirm what position that's for?" And, and then it's kind of like done and dusted. And it should twig in your mind like, "Oh, yeah, I did apply for them." If you can't remember, that's a red flag and you're doing it all wrong, I would say. But like, because you should just have that company's name in your head. But just ask for clarification. Try and not stitch yourself up by getting to the end of the call and going, "Sorry, who's this?" Because
I'm thinking a top tip here. This is a top tip. Be organized. I mean, at least have a spreadsheet. If you're going to fire out your application to as many as possible, at least just be organized with it. Have a spreadsheet add it to that spreadsheet, name a position, when you applied.
Exactly.
Off the top of my head.
Date. Yeah.
So then you're not in that position of going, oh, who did I apply? When did I apply? Even if you've completely forgotten about it, it'll just look better if you can go back to wherever you've written it down and find out, oh yeah, that's what it was.
Exactly. And I think that speaks volumes, because if you don't know then off the top of your head, that's okay, because you've got it somewhere, and it's kind of what that says to me as a recruiter, you know.